Welcome back to another episode of Exploring Shasta County History. I'm your host, Jeremy M. Tuggle. Today we are examining the history and legacy of the McCormick Seltzer Company here within Shasta County, its main store in Redding, and its branches within our region. Dr. Louis Willendorf, a resident of Shasta since 1859, originally established his dentistry inside the city drugstore of that town on the south side of Main Street inside the Calican Block building. The city drugstore was owned and operated by Charles Roth. It was Willendorf who later succeeded Roth as an apothecary and druggist when Roth retired. At that time, Willendorf eventually partnered with his nephew, Rudolph M.F. Seltzer, as co-owners of this drugstore. However, by May 5, 1877, a dissolution of partnership occurred between Seltzer and Willendorf took possession again as sole owner. A couple days later, on May 7, 1877, James McCormick of Redding entered into partnership with Seltzer and Willendorf to establish the McCormick Seltzer Company in the newly established town of Redding. Originally, the McCormick Seltzer Company was located on the southeast corner of Butte and California streets, inside the post office building and opposite of the railroad depot. This business venture was a combination mercantile and general merchandise store, which was launched with a capital stock of $4,500. However, Dr. Willendorf continued operating the city drugstore at Shasta as well. As Redding continued with its growth and prosperity, the McCormick Seltzer Company building was erected at Redding as a wooden structure which measured 128 by 40 feet. It was constructed by Chauncey C. Bush Sr., a prominent businessman and miner who was often helmed as the father of Redding. Bush Sr. was also the landlord of the property, which they rented from him. After the brand new firm moved into this building, Bush Sr. constructed an addition to the building made of fireproof bricks, which measured at 28 feet wide on California Street and 140 feet to the alleyway. Then on September 29, 1877, the Shasta Courier newspaper Shasta printed the following column: McCormick Seltzer & Company have a flourishing trade, and they deserve it, as their goods are of excellent quality and the prices are very reasonable. McCormick Seltzer and Willendorf kept their store overflowing with a variety of goods and other merchandise available to the customer on site. Later, those items were stored in one of their warehouses in Redding. The company owned a warehouse in between Yuba and Placer Streets on the east side of Oregon Street, and they owned a regular warehouse on the southeast corner of Tehama Street and the railroad tracks in Redding. News store arrivals were often printed by the local media to attract the attention of the general public to buy from them. In most cases, their products quickly sold out as soon as their shipment arrived. In 1878, Dr. Louis Willendorf sold his interest to Williamson Leucoia Smith, who was his wife's maternal uncle and a resident of Shasta. Smith was a pioneer stage driver and a division superintendent of the California-Oregon Stage Company that operated in Shasta between the years 1853 and 1888. Smith continued his work locally for both companies. Willendorf was wanting to uproot his family out of the area. Then, on November 8, 1878, the public sale of Willendorf's private belongings took place at his residence in Shasta. Willendorf eventually relocated his family to San Pablo in Contra Costa County, California. One newspaper penned the following: Shasta County loses a good citizen. According to the 1880 U.S. Census, Willendorf was still working as a physician in San Pablo. He died there in 1898. And he is buried in Shasta In June of 1880, the local media announced that McCormick, Seltzer and Company are building an addition of 40 feet to their store. This is an improvement which has been sadly needed for some time past. By July 8th, the addition was almost completed. It was noted that this addition would be used as the dry goods department, which also included a side entrance to the store. The McCormick Seltzer Company had their occasional shoplifters and petty thieves who wrote fraudulent checks, and their cases would often reach the district court or the superior court. One such case, which was held before Judge Aaron Bell in December of 1882, was against a man by the surname of Gillette. 2 years later, the social media announced the following account. On April 22, 1883, McCormick Seltzer and Company's old store building moved to the corner of Butte and Market Streets. It's being fitted up for rent. An attempted arson discovery against the McCormick Seltzer Company was heralded in the October 6, 1883 edition of the Republican Free Press newspaper rating, which mentioned the following account. William Robinson discovered Monday morning under one corner of McCormick and Seltzer's warehouse indications of an attempt at incendiarism. A bundle of straw had been placed under the building, and the boards saturated with coal oil. The straw had burned, and the boards were blackened. This is not the first attempt of this kind against this firm. Incendiarism today would be arson. A major announcement took place on September 6, 1884, when it was reported that McCormick Seltzer and Company have ordered lumber from Red Bluff and contracted with Williams and Hodling to build a store 20 by 40 at Delta. This move is in keeping with their customary enterprise. This store became the first branch of this company, which was established at the brand new town of Delta in Sacramento River Canyon, which was flourishing at the time. This new brand store opened later that year, with Alexander Levy as their store manager. Additional employees were hired on at Delta. One of the new hires was Daniel Coughlin, who became their main clerk. At the town of Reading, the sales of the company's store were increasing and exceeding themselves in profits. Local trade was improving as well. Business was good. Locals often referred to this company as the Big Store. The Republican Free Press newspaper Reading printed the following article on September 6, 1884, which stated the following. The construction of the road to Delta has greatly increased business here. On Monday, McCormick Seltzer and Company shipped a carload of goods to that point. The residents of the section lying between Reading and the terminus can board the down train in the morning, have ample time to buy goods, and return with their purchases on the up train. The loss of the Wairika teams is more than counterbalanced by this additional trade. That year also saw the erection of a building for the Bank of Shasta County on the vacant lot adjoining the McCormick Seltzer Company store on California Street. Then, in March of 1885, the McCormick Seltzer Company store at the town of Delta had been sealed overhead. The work was completed by Williams and Hodling. By August 1st, W. Williams and Lyman Hodling, contractors of Reading, were awarded the contract to start the McCormick Seltzer Company's new brick warehouse at Reading. On October 2, 1886, the local media announced the following sale of the branch store at Delta. McCormick Seltzer Company has sold their store at Delta to A.M. Sanders, who will take charge in a few days. A Levy and family will return to Reading. Sanders, the new owner of the former McCormick Seltzer Company store at Delta, dropped their name from his new establishment and continued running it as his own separate business as A.M. Sanders General Merchandise. That year, the McCormick Seltzer and Company were competing in business against the following companies in Reading: Willard and Wheel General Merchandise, Daniel Breslauer and Company, I. Simon and Brother, Gilbert Miller and Eaton Hardware and Drugs, Garrett Lyon and Company Hardware, among others. Overall, McCormick Seltzer and Company led the business scene for 1886, bringing in a grand total of $326,000. Willard and Will General Merchandise came in second place at $150,000. The town of Reading kept growing with 250 new buildings erected that year. The town of Reading became incorporated as a city in 1887. Then, On April 28, 1888, the McCormick Seltzer Company was also incorporated for $100,000. A new building which was under construction for the McCormick Seltzer Company was located on southwest corner of Yuba and Market Streets, and by June 2, 1888, the Holton Gray Company of Anderson commenced laying the brick of the foundation of their new building at that location. 5 months later, additional stock of the McCormick Seltzer Company was sold to John T. Wiseman. Wiseman was a merchant who formerly had a general merchandise store inside the Golden Eagle Hotel on Yuba Street in Reading. He also moved his store into his new location inside their building. During the interim, they profited well off their merchandise. During 1897, Keswick was still a flourishing community after numerous fires ravaged the town. Since its humble beginnings in 1895, the town kept rebuilding from the ashes, and in July of 1897, the third branch store of this firm was established in the growing smelter town at the new suburb of Keswick called South Park. Keswick was attracting attention in the local media, and the firm offered a room inside the Keswick Hotel at that location. It was a smart business move, as the firm profited well. An additional branch store, the McCormick Seltzer Company, celebrated their grand opening at the town of DeLamar at Bully Hill on September 9th, 1900. By that date, the company had branch stores at Reading, Keswick, and DeLamar. The town of Carville in Trinity County was booming due to local mines in the area as well, and it was an up-and-coming place to live at the time, which demanded the attention of a large store to serve the area. By March of 1901, an additional branch of the McCormick Seltzer and Company had been established at Carville. Freight was hauled into Reading by train or wagon loads depending on type of merchandise it was. Once the goods reached Reading, they would be transported to their headquarters from the Reading Depot for inventory purposes and then placed in one of the McCormick Seltzer Company's large warehouses in Reading. Depending on where the merchandise was ordered from, some would eventually be shipped to one of their branch stores by a wagon from Reading to that location. At DeLamar, this branch of the big store was operated by manager James W. Schoonover, and they also had employed a clerk by the name of William Mason to assist him in the store. Like their store employees, their freight drivers were also employed on the company payroll. Drivers changed almost frequently as their store clerks did. Then on July 11, 1903, the Free Press newspaper Reading reported the following about the Reading store. Big store's new building. 2 plans and specifications for the improvements to be made to the McCormick Seltzer Company's building are about completed. The plans are being drawn up by architect Heron. The building will practically be a new one. The 2-story addition will be built at the corner of Market and Plaza Streets and will extend from the street corner to the 1-story portion of the building now in use. The entire Market Street front of the building, 300 feet, will be plate glass and iron front. This single front will occupy the same space that the 13 stores occupy in the next block north. As soon as all the details in the plans are decided on, work of the construction will begin, and in a year's time, Reading will have one of the handsomest and largest department stores in the state. Hey guys, Jeremy here. I'm kind of showing you one of my favorite things I have out of my own personal collection. I'm a local collector of Shasta County history, as well as a local historian. What I'm about to show you here is a zigzag ruler from the McCormick Seltzer Company. This is the front side. On it, it says the McCormick Seltzer Company, Incorporated, Reading, California, sells over $1 million annually, wholesale and retail. On the back, it has advertisements, and it says dry goods, carpets, clothing, shoes, gents, furnishings, groceries, liquors, tobacco, and cigars, trunks and suitcases, hardware, mining and blacksmith supplies, farm implements, powder, coal, and cement. Once again, this is a zigzag ruler. Later, in November of 1909, the McCormick Seltzer Company sold their branch store at DeLamar to Charles W. Myers, and Myers became the new merchant for DeLamar. Thomas Mulhern and Frank Fergus in the transaction with Myers were also named. It was Rudolph M.F. Seltzer who closed the deal. However, the new corporation kept the name of McCormick Seltzer and Company, and they continued selling the same stock of merchandise as their Reading branch did. The store thrived under the new ownership. Years later, the name was dropped from this business and it became DeLamar's general merchandise store. In 1920, the McCormick Seltzer Company of Carville was located inside the Carville Inn at that time, and the ownership eventually passed out of the firm into the ownership of Clarence Carr and his family. The McCormick Seltzer Company was hailed as the biggest retail store between Sacramento and Portland. It was known by many as the Big Store. Even the company referred themselves as the Big Store in their advertisements. Headlines in the local media referred to them both ways. This versatile department store employed over 200 employees and included a dry goods department, a grocery department, men's, women's, and children's clothing departments, and a general merchandise department. Early on, they were agents for the Studebaker Company and sold their top-line wagons for the public, hand tools of all types, farm equipment, garden equipment with feed and seed contributed to the daily sales as well. Years later, they sold gasoline from the pumping station on Market Street in Reading. Their store policy was to promote all industry that promoted the progress of Northern California. This resulted in the McCormick Seltzer Company to extend credit to local farmers, ranchers, miners, and lumbermen. In June of 1902, Williamson Lincoln Smith, one of the energetic owners of the McCormick Seltzer Company, died and left a valuable estate, which was fought over in the Superior Court. It was held up in the court for years, with two of his sisters contesting the estate and his niece contesting it as well. All parties involved were after the inheritance, which kept the estate in court. Finally, it was proven and settled that the inheritance of the estate belonged to his niece, May Helene Bacon Boggs, who became the new owner of the big store, with its original founder, Rudolph M.F. Seltzer. The estate appears to have been settled in 1905. During the interim of the court case above, on June 8, 1905, the founder of the company, James McCormick, died, and the store closed in memoriam to him for the day, and the day of his funeral as well. McCormick was a local leader, entrepreneur, and merchant. He was buried in the Reading Cemetery, now known as Reading Memorial Park. He lived in Reading at his residence at 1452 Oregon Street. His house is now known as the McCormick Mansion. It was a large residence during his lifetime, and it still remains standing to this day, and is now maintained by a local business. It is a historical registered landmark of Reading as well. This local store was still owned by its founder, Rudolph M.F. Seltzer, and May Helene Bacon Boggs, a heir of the Smith estate, which is how she acquired the store. The store was making $1 million annually and continued a successful business venture while making new changes to the products they were selling in their store. Several years later, on February 10, 1927, the original founder of the company, Rudolph M.F. Seltzer, died, leaving his store and his estate to his own children, Rudolph A. Rolf Seltzer, Dudley Victor Seltzer, and Dorothy Seltzer, all of Reading, who then controlled the big store with May Helene Bacon Boggs, a resident of San Francisco. During the 1920s and the 1930s, the McCormick Seltzer Company published their own newsletter for their employees and families filled with photographs, insider information, daily tidbits, fun facts, discounts, and more. There were usually 2 to 3 pages printed front to back. By the early 1930s, a customer membership to the company was opened up for the public with the same layout. This newsletter was printed and mailed to Walter On of Anderson from the collection of Jeremy Tuggle. So this is the Bacon Smith Boggs family. This is where their ashes are kept in the San Francisco Columbarium. at San Francisco. Trying to get my shadow out of the way, the light is making it difficult, but it is extremely beautiful in this building that we are in. Charles Bacon, born December 14th, 1816, died November 2nd, 1862. Sarah E. Smith Bacon, his wife, born January 30th, 1825, died January 4th, 1900. May Helene Bacon Boggs, February 16th, 1863 is when she was born. She died on August 1st, 1963, at 100. Mildred Bacon Willendorf, born October 29th, 1843, died April 4th, 1894. Andrew Jackson Bacon, born November 25th, 1849, died March 16th, 1910. Ione Bacon Spencer, I'm sorry if I got that wrong, born February 20th, 1858, November 2nd, 1944 is when she died. Now, May Helene Bacon Boggs' uncle, Williamson Lincoya Smith, is the first name on top. Born August 6th, 1830, died May 31st, 1902. Joseph Henry Bacon, born June 26, 1854, died November 18th, 1896. And May Helene Bacon Boggs' husband, Angus Gordon Boggs, born September 13th, 1857, died January 29th, 1920. Eventually, the owners of the McCormick Seltzer Company sold the big store in January of 1938 to William M. Clement for an undisclosed amount of money. Various sums were given, but the prices were not the exact total it sold for. It was Clement who became the sole owner of the store. The McCormick Seltzer and Company store at Reading kept operating until January 13th, 1940, when a ravaging fire destroyed the company, which quickly climbed to $1 million in damages. However, Clement sold the store to a fittingly named company called the Pioneer Store Incorporated, of which Clement was president of. He also promised to rebuild the McCormick Seltzer Company, but by the time the new building was erected in Reading, Pioneer Store Incorporated quickly dissolved the name and operated under their own store name at that location. It wasn't until September 19th, 1940 that the Pioneer Store Incorporated reopened in what they were calling the Pioneer Block, not only named after their company, but a fitting tribute to the historic McCormick Seltzer Company, whose legacy lasted for generations here in Shasta County. There were 9 stores erected in this modern unit, which housed the new store. The new building was laid out to 128,000 square feet of floor space under one roof. It included a central heating and air conditioning unit for all 9 stores, so their customers could shop in comfort year-round. The 9 new stores occupied a stretch of the block from Yuba Street to Placer Street on the west side of Market Street, which were the following: the F.W. Woolworth Company, the J.C. Penney Company, Sherman Clay, the Ware Company, Paul Ford's Bootery, Mode O'Day, and the Central Pharmacy. thank you for watching. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, and also head over to Writing Buzz on Facebook and Instagram, and please subscribe to them as well.